Welcome to the Table Podcast series with Bridget Johnson. Each month, we give you game-changing conversations about K-12 education and leadership. Join us as top educators, field experts, and administrators share actionable strategies to transform your school community. Let's dive in.
Welcome to The Table, formerly known as the Dean's Roundtable podcast. Though the name has changed, the mission stays the same, creating a space where student-like professionals, educators, and change makers come together to share stories, insights, and ideas for building communities where everyone belongs. I'm your host, Bridget Johnson, founder of the Dean's Roundtable and longtime student-life professional. Each episode, we'll hear from people doing the hard work, hopeful work of creating more just, compassionate, and restorative communities. So pull up a chair and let's get started. Today, I'm honored to welcome Nicole McDermott. Nicole is an educator, leader, ICF certified coach, facilitator, and consultant with over 20 years of experience. She brings a grounded approach rooted in mutual trust, warmth, integrity, and vulnerability. Through her Quality Matters leadership development work, she co-creates transformative spaces for I'm going to get that out, for professional and personal growth. And through educational direction, she supports schools with search and transition. Nicole is also a former longtime independent school head, a certified Dare to Lead facilitator trained by Brene Brown, and a committed service leader as a life member of Kiwanis. She's based in Northern Virginia, where daily meditation and gratitude practices anchor her leadership journey. I'm so happy to have you here today, Nicole. Welcome.
And thank you, Bridget. I'm good. I'm really happy to be here and just try to bring some light to all the work that you do. And I love that, where everybody belongs. That's what it's all about.
Oh, I appreciate you. So, let's jump right in. So, you've worn so many hats: educator, head of school, coach, facilitator. Before we dig into some of those different chapters, what has been the through line or driving force across all those roles?
Yeah, I think there's really two through lines. I think it's making a difference. That's always been something that I would say it was ingrained in me young, and just kind of really feels like that's a part of who I am. And then the other piece being connection, which I would say is one of my top values. And I know we'll get into Brene in a little bit more so, but one of the things that really drew me to Brene Brown's work was her definition of connection, and which is the energy that people feel, the energy that's created when people feel seen, heard, and valued. Yes. And that just put words to something that was always so important to me. And yeah, so I think those are the two through lines. And then I always feel I have to say this because it really is true that I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was in the second grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I always feel like that it chose me versus the other way around. And I feel like everything that I do and have done flows from being a teacher first. And I do still think of myself that way, even though now I'm 3 years out of working in a school. Yeah.
So in second grade, was it a teacher that you had, or was it just like, I really like school? Like, what was it for you that you were like, I want to be a teacher?
Yeah, well, I think there were a few. I did have a teacher in second grade that I loved, and Mrs. Gamby, one of my favorite teachers. And at that time, my mom had gone back to college to be a teacher. So I think there were probably a lot of different influences, and I could not pinpoint one exact thing. I really do feel it really always felt very vocational.
I love that.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit and just talk about you ground your work in mutual trust, warmth, integrity, and vulnerability. And some people hate that word vulnerability, and we'll come back to that. But where did that leadership philosophy come from, and how has it shaped the way you lead as a coach?
Yeah. So I think, obviously everything comes from everything, right? My whole life experience brought me to that. I would say trust. I think I was a kid who really understood trust in a way that my peers didn't. And so I think trust has always been something really important to me. Charles Feltman talks about trust being, choosing to risk that something that's valuable to me is safe with another person, essentially, paraphrasing. Right. And yeah, I think I just kind of was always really clued into that. So that trust has always been really important. Integrity, I would also say, part of how I was raised. I think I definitely was raised with the idea that you should do the right thing. and you should do the right thing, at all costs, essentially. And I still think that's part of the definition of integrity, and now have expanded that a little bit to include some of Brené's research, which is integrity is choosing courage over comfort.
Yes.
So I think that's a big part. And then the vulnerability piece, that took me, I had to really think, well, where did that come from? And I want to tell a funny story about
Okay.
when I first moved to Northern Virginia, my second year of being an educator, I worked at a school and I had a boss, the head of school, and I was pretty close with her. She became a mentor, and I would still consider her a mentor. And one of the things that she did was she swore a lot, and not in an aggressive, angry way. It was just, that was how she expressed herself when she was frustrated or something was going on. And I think that what that taught me was, you can be a leader and you can be real, and you can be a leader and you can have feelings, and you can be a leader and you are not perfect. And I was 23, 24 years old at that time. So I think that really was foundational for me to understand what leadership with vulnerability could look like.
Perfect segue into my next question and talking about Dare to Lead. And I came across Dare to Lead and Brene Brown. I'd heard Brene Brown's name before, but hadn't really dug into what she was teaching or her philosophy until I started to get my master's in restorative practice, and we were required to read Dare to Lead. And,
I love that.
the vulnerability piece, but also the values exercise was something that was so
Yes.
life changing for me. I got to tell you, because now I use it all the time when I'm doing my coaching of that nature. So you were trained directly by Brene Brown, which is awesome.
Yes.
And you're a certified Dare to Lead facilitator. What was that experience like? And what's one lesson from Dare to Lead that's always stayed with you, even to today?
Yeah. Well, it was an incredible experience to essentially be a student in Brene Brown's classroom. That's what it was. And truly, I had a literal front row seat to it. So it was really incredible, surreal, everything that you would think it would be. And what I would say, two things that really stood out: one during the training itself, and then one just from the Dare to Lead work. So during the training itself, something that's really important to Brene Brown, and as such now all of us who are in the facilitator community, is this idea of serving the work. That we're charged with this now. We have this responsibility to kind of go out and share this work. And I remember leaving the training thinking, this is probably going to be, I just want to do everything I can to live up to this biggest challenge and this biggest opportunity that now has been given to me. So I think that would be kind of a training. And I would say from Dare to Lead, one of the things that I have come back to, a lot is, and this is really across all of her books, so it's not specific to Dare to Lead. It's her research on shame and the separation between shame and guilt. So shame is, I am dumb, and guilt is, I did something dumb. And it's kind of become a thing with everybody in my life that if they say something that is shaming language, I will redirect that, and I'll say,
Nice.
this is a silly mistake. And people, everyone tolerates it, and it brings some levity to the moment. And it really, that's how ingrained that has become. And when I was ahead, we use that with the students, because it is it's very natural for I was in a preschool through 6th grade school, so kids will say, I am naughty, or I was bad, and we would have 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds in my office, and we would say, you are not a bad kid, you made a bad choice. And did they really hear that? Who knows? And it was really important to us that that was part of what it looked like when we were trying to live out the work at school.
Well, I just think that's so important, Nicole, because the narrative we play in our heads, or what we tell ourselves, people underestimate how important that is.
Yes.
And being positive and redirecting those thoughts, so that healthy body, healthy mind, right? And so if you
Absolutely.
aren't healthy in your mind and you're beating yourself up all the time, you never give yourself grace. I was definitely one of those people. I had to shift my mindset.
Sure.
And start to think about things a little bit differently, because you can't help other people be positive if you're not positive to yourself, right? That's really
Absolutely.
hard.
Yeah, and I think I can relate to what you're saying too. Sometimes I'll joke that I'm a recovering perfectionist. And
Yes.
I think people who have those perfectionistic tendencies are really hard on themselves. And
Absolutely.
their self-talk is not positive at all, and likely is shame-filled. So yeah, that really was a huge learning of Brené's that I would say I really embrace. And I hear it with other people I know, people I don't know, and the ones I know get to hear my response to it. The ones who I don't know, sometimes I think about writing to people and saying, just want to make sure, but I don't do it. Maybe
Fair
someday.
enough. Maybe someday, right?
Yeah.
Well, the big thing that Brene Brown taught me was about vulnerability. And so, in the Dare to Lead framework, vulnerability is about risk, uncertainty, and emotional exposure. Why do you
Yes.
think so many leaders avoid vulnerability? And what does intentional vulnerability look like in practice?
Yeah. So I think in general, we want to avoid anything that feels scary, that is hard, that's uncomfortable. And so vulnerability is all of those things. Nobody is rushing towards those feelings, right? So I
Right.
think that's a big part of it. And I think that the paradox that people don't realize is that they think they can avoid vulnerability. And the truth is, vulnerability is happening all around us all the time. We can't
Right.
avoid it. So to your point, we have to have some sort of intentionality around it or a level of consciousness around it. So
Yes.
I think that the first step of that is to just acknowledge this is hard. This might be a tense meeting, or I feel tension, whatever it is, to acknowledge, really have that self-awareness to be able to name it. I think in practice, it can look a lot of different ways. I think, if you're a leader in a school and you're about to have a hard meeting with a parent or a teacher, right? I think it would go so far in terms of trust building and really just naming that vulnerability to say, you know what, I think we might be in for a hard conversation today.
Hmm.
And what's not hard at all for me is to say, I really care about you and I care about what we're talking about. I care about your child. I care about whatever it is. And I just want to set the stage with that. I want us to ground ourselves there. I think that's a really small way. I think any moments of repair are vulnerable moments.
Mm.
So we all know, being educators in schools, that we sometimes are too harsh than we want to be, or we have a moment where we don't show up the way we wished we did with a student or with a colleague, right? And so the vulnerability that it takes to go back to that person and say, you know what, I'm sorry for how I showed up earlier. That was not my best self.
Yes.
And I think there's moments to do that constantly in schools.
Absolutely.
And then I'll tell a funny story where it kind of brings some levity to the vulnerability. So earlier this year, I was doing a training with a school in Pennsylvania, Dare to Lead
Hmm.
workshop. And so in the morning in my hotel room before I went to the school, I was looking in the mirror and I have curly hair. And some people know that if you have curly hair, no day is the same with curly hair. So I'm looking in the mirror, getting ready to go, and I see that there is one curl that's kind of really hanging lower than all the other curls. It's just not cooperating the way the other curls are. And so I think, well, I have, of course it gets me a little bit wound up when I see this, And so I think, well, I do have scissors, I could cut it. I could just cut that curl and just go. And, I know, like, hair care professionals, that's not advised.
Maybe not.
I know that's not the right thing to do, or just let it go, right? So
Right.
I think to myself, just let this go, because you're a little anxious, and if you start trying to mess with this, it's going to turn into a whole thing, and you've got to get to the school. So I go and I'm there, and I'm introducing myself to them, and I just decided to kind of call it out. And so I said, I just want to, embrace a moment of vulnerability and share with you, no day with curly hair is the same. And you might notice, and I just feel like you're all looking at this one curl that's hanging down, and it got a laugh. And I think also it kind of set the stage for, we're going to learn together, we're going to be real together and be vulnerable. So I think those are some of the ways that it shows up. And I also want to acknowledge that when we talk about vulnerability, and in Brené's research, Brené's research she has a lot of diverse participation from her research.
Hmm.
And in everyday life, especially in this moment, I know that it can be hard for some people to show up and be vulnerable. There's systems of oppression that make it very difficult for that to begin. It can make it unsafe. So I just want to acknowledge that it isn't as simple as what we're saying. There's more nuance to it. And my hope is that at the very least in our school communities, everybody, no matter what their identity, no matter where they're from, and any of that they can show up and really be seen, even if sadly that is not true in the broader context.
I appreciate you saying that, and it is a tough time right now,
Yes,
and you hope that people can be brave and be vulnerable, but sometimes they just can't. And in
absolutely.
those moments, you just have to do the best that you can
Yes.
in those times, and hope for better times to come later. Right?
Yes, yes. And I think for those of us that can show up more easily with vulnerability, that's where we can show up with courage for the people who can't
You
in
can't.
ways that obviously make sense.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so talking about the hard times, and you served as head of school during COVID. And so
Yes.
that was not easy. And so I know it had to be incredibly challenging. How did that experience deepen your Dare to Lead practice and influence the way you coach leaders now?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I want to say about that is I still feel that anybody who led a school during COVID could benefit from a support group. So just want to put that out there. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that really was an opportunity to live into the Dare to Lead work, right? Showing up with curiosity, obviously courage, and just braving uncertainty, braving
Yes.
those vulnerable times. When during that time, I remember I would send emails to our school community and I would say, would be saying whatever we were saying that moment. And,
Hmm.
like sometimes literally 10 moments later, it was completely different, right? But
Different.
we were saying whatever was right then. And I would say in those emails, there are more questions than answers right now, and at some point that will flip. And thank you for your trust, and we're going to have grace with each other in the meantime, and onward. And that's, I did used to always have onward with an exclamation point was my signature, and during COVID I did change it to a comma because it felt like it was a little bit too much to use that exclamation point. And that was all we could do. It was really moving onward. So I would say that now when I think about that time and how it has affected me as a leader and affected me as a coach, and what, the idea of giving yourself grace, I think
Hmm.
is a really revolutionary idea for many people. And that comes up a lot, I would say, in coaching sessions. And I also think the idea of concentrate on what you can control.
Right.
And what, yes, this is an uncertain time. COVID was an uncertain time, but in present day we have some uncertain times too, and everybody goes through uncertain periods in their work and their life or whatever. And so in those periods of uncertainty, how can we show up and concentrate on what we can control? And I think COVID really helped bring that home.
It did. And so interesting during that time because that's where people really didn't know what was happening from one
Not at
moment
all.
to next. And that is very nerve wracking for leaders to not feel like they know all the things. Because sometimes now that's the
Yes.
thing about in leadership, you feel like you're supposed to know, you're supposed to be leading others and being in control. And that just turned everything on its ear. You just didn't know from moment to moment. You had to just manage that. And some people did that well, and some people struggled with that really.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I think folks do need a support group after that because that was whew, it's a lot
Yeah.
happening right there.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
let's
I
kind
think
of
you, oh,
oh no,
sorry.
go ahead.
I think you hit on something too, that when you said, why do leaders not want to embrace vulnerability? We were talking about that earlier. It's
Hmm.
because a lot of times leaders want to be the expert, and they want that, it's important to them to kind of have that role. And so what does it mean in a situation like the pandemic? Who is the expert there? I
Right.
mean, there, we won't even get into that, but I mean, like, so then it is like, okay, well, how do you lead in this way? And I was in my 15th year as a head when COVID
Mm,
hit. And I remember thinking, I have no idea what to do.
yeah.
And it's my 15th year. So lean into all the things that have made you a good leader.
Right.
And it did work. And, there's just, you're flying without a footprint.
It was such an interesting time, and it doesn't feel like it was as long ago as it was. But I mean, and
Yes.
we've had some years behind us now, but it still, I don't know, it still feels a little fresh to me.
Yes, yes, and that's why we need that support group going back.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about quality matters. And so tell us a little bit about where the name came from and
Sure.
why you decided to go out on your own.
Yeah. So the name actually came from the word quality has been an adjective in my life for a long time. It came from my dad. I used to use that word to describe things a lot. And sometime in college, I had the idea to have a business named Quality Matters. I did not know at that time what
Oh
that business would
wow.
be. And yeah, so it's been kind of a fun journey with that phrase. And I like the way it kind of plays on words, like quality matters, kind of being quality, doing quality work, that matters. And quality matters. These
Right.
are matters of quality. I don't need to explain it, but yeah. So that was where the name came from. And yeah, so going back to being ahead, I was ahead for a long time, 18 years, and I became ahead when I was 26 years old. So many people who come to, school leadership. And so when I left the school that I led, I'm trying to do the math in my head, and math is not my strong suit.
Fair enough. Same here. Same.
Yeah, I want to say I was 44, I think. 43 or 44 when I left the school. So you're not retired when you're 43 or 44. And you're certainly
Right.
not retired after working in a small independent school with the salary. You're not able to retire there.
Right.
So it really was, first it was, am I ready to leave? Because it was, it was a huge part of me. It still is a huge part of me. And being, kind of the center of a community for so long. And I took a lot of pride in that. So that was part of it. And then it was like, okay, you've made the decision to go. Now what's next? And Quality Matters already was, when I became a Dare to Lead facilitator and got that training, that's what I established my LLC. So Quality Matters already existed. And I was doing I was doing a few things here and there. Obviously was not doing it full time. So the biggest thing was I was ready to leave being ahead. And I needed some rest, and I knew that Quality Matters would be part of it. I did not know for sure at that time. Talk about uncertainty again. I did not know for sure that that would become full time, and it has. And I'm really grateful that between the coaching and Dare to Lead, and I also have other things where I do EQI, Clifton Strengths, and I'm also a certified grief educator. So there's a lot of things that go into that work, and all of it really is kind of developing people and leaders and supporting them in their self-awareness journey and just in their effectiveness. So I think I answered all parts of that question.
You did. You answered it beautifully. And so I'm going to follow that up with, what do you see as the most common challenge leaders bring into coaching today?
Yeah. So it still surprises me how much the same types of challenges come up, regardless of the different leaders and different spaces that those leaders are in. And I would say a big one that I see, and sometimes it's not even, I don't even see it by name. The person is not naming it. I know what it is. It's trust or lack thereof, or how to build it. Right. And so that's something that really I think coaching is so useful for, in that evoking self-awareness, right? Because if we can understand how our actions, big and little, are ways to build trust, I think it can go a long way with the people that we're working with, and with the cultures that that we're trying to create. John Gottman talks about trust is built in small moments. So, and I subscribe to that idea. And that's why I think for leaders, this idea of being an intentional leader is really important, and sometimes forgotten. Or, to be honest, is it forgotten, or is it just that there's so many other things getting in the way? Both are probably true. We know in a school setting, especially, I mean, it's just boom all day long. You have to be on all day, and the effort and the prioritization of those trust building moments, and even things that you might not think are trust building moments, but they're small moments of intentionality, I think make a big difference. And going back to those challenges, I think I would hear a lot less leadership challenges if we had more concentration there.
And we spend so much time going 100 miles an hour, right? Trying to check all the boxes, and to slow down and have some of those mindful moments, right? I think would really help. But, again, the pressures to lead, the pressures to get things done. You don't feel like you have the time to kind of take those micro moments, or whatever you want to call them. So you also work with educational directions, guiding schools through leadership searches and transitions. And so what patterns do you see in what schools are looking for in leaders now, and where might they be missing the mark, actually?
Yeah, so it's interesting. What comes up for me when I hear that question is a little bit similar, and I'll come back to the actual answer, but a little bit similar to when I was a head of school, and we would have prospective families come in, and these prospective families would be solely focused on academics. And of course, a school's primary job is to educate children, and academics is a huge part. And I remember I would always feel a little bit impatient, because I would think, there's so much more to our school than academics. There's so many reasons to choose any independent school. You're talking about character building, leadership opportunities, confidence building opportunities. And then you also think about for the family, the benefit of being around like-minded, same values type families, right? And peer parent relationships and all the benefits to a child in a school community when that happens, right? So coming back to this search question, I think that what happens sometimes when a school is in a search for a new leader is the focus is solely on the search and finding the next right leader. And in educational directions, we are really clear that we're looking for the right leader for their school. We're not just looking for anybody who wants to be a leader. And there is a distinction there, right?
Sure.
And searches don't happen in isolation. And so I think that it would be wise for everybody involved in a search, the school, the search committee, for the consultants, to really consider all the other parts that are going on while a search is going on. And I think some of the biggest things are, again, going back to this vulnerability idea, right? There's uncertainty, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's grief a lot of times from different stakeholders for different reasons. And I think it doesn't make sense to gloss over that or to not give it. I think it's weighty. It's a weighty part of what happens when a school is in a search. And I think it does deserve some attention. And, again, it's uncomfortable stuff, right?
It is. But I love that. I don't think people think about those pieces enough.
Yeah. I have always been somebody who's like a holistic, I'm a whole child educator, holistic view. And so I think it's just been kind of my natural inclination to bring that view to searches, but I've seen it, I can see it. I see it playing out with schools that I work with. So.
And then you have the transition, right? And so
Yes.
when schools are in moments of change, whether it's new leadership, shifting culture, community tensions, what role does vulnerability play in building trust and stability?
Yeah. So I think that when you are a new leader in a school community, you are going in, nobody knows you, or very few people at that point know you, right? So how can you go in and show up wholeheartedly and be yourself? I think that's really important. That authenticity is how trust is built. And I also think, borrowing a phrase from the Unreasonable Hospitality book, which I read this summer, so many applications to schools, like really great book. But in that book, the author talks about, do not cannonball into the pool when you are eased in, right? And I think that people in schools can benefit from that. And I also think that with the vulnerability piece, again, comes the curiosity piece. I mean, new leaders have to be asking more questions than they are telling their ideas or implementing ideas and it's kind of another, like the COVID example. At some point that will flip. Right? At some point for that new leader, it will flip. But at the beginning, it needs to be more questions, more asking questions than it is that certainty that you're going to bring into the school. And I think those are the ways that you build trust. And as trust is built, stability is felt in the community.
It is. And I think that's another time where we sometimes don't allow people to just slow down and pause, because there's so many things that you want the new leadership to do. And so getting people to say, all right, let's just take a pause here. Let's take a breath. Let's take a beat. Let's slow down a bit so that everyone can get their sea legs, because, new leadership means a new way of doing things, new philosophies, perhaps. It might not necessarily be all of that in the beginning. It shouldn't necessarily be, but there's a moment of time where we just need to say, everyone, just collective deep breath. New leadership is here.
Yeah.
Everyone's okay. Now let's see how we want to move forward. But I do often feel like sometimes leaders don't get that opportunity because everyone's peppering things in them. They're drinking through a fire hose, and don't let a crisis bubble up at the same time as well. And so just reminding people that folks just need a moment, and it's okay if everyone takes one. It really is.
It's encouraged. It's encouraged for everyone to take one. And I would also say that to the question that we just talked about kind of trying to take a holistic view of a search, I would say that doing that is part of setting up the next leader for success.
Absolutely.
Because when you have already attended to some of those fears and feelings, the next leader is going to have a better experience. And then I would also say that when we think about our schools, right, we think about things that are positive attributes of a school culture, right? We think about transparency, and we think about a risk-taking culture that we encourages risk-taking, and environments that are both warm, and also we have accountability. What's the foundation of all of that? It's vulnerability.
Right.
That starts with vulnerability. And then I would also say, I think you're bringing up something really interesting too about the pressures that new leaders feel when they come into school communities, and probably the paradox of trying to show up as they are and also trying to please to a degree, right? Or at least seem like you're in line with the culture. And so
Right.
I think that the more schools can really create this holistic approach during the search, and then hold everybody this collective moment where you're kind of holding the vulnerability, I think that it does let people show up and feel like they can be who they are. And so for that new leader, that permission, and if it's just coming from us on this podcast, right?
Right.
We give you permission to set boundaries and to say no. And
Right.
you can do that. You can do that with warmth, and you can do that in connection.
Absolutely.
And all of that is very much vulnerability at the beginning.
I agree with you. Yeah, all the things. And so, are you, with educational directions or even the work that you're doing with Quality Matters, are you helping new leaders through transition? Are you supporting them? And what does that look like initially?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so for educational directions, we really pride ourselves on the transition piece. So we will stay with a school for a whole year as part of, and sometimes that's really formal and sometimes it's looser. And
mhm,
also sometimes it's kind of driven by the school and
got
what
it.
do they want. And it is a really important part of what we do. And then, yes, also in addition to kind of the general transition things that educational directions does, I am, like, some of the searches that I did last school year, I'm now coaching some of those leaders that were placed. And so that's fun because for me, I get very invested in the school and very invested in them, and I'm rooting for them. And so it allows me to keep supporting them and keep supporting the school. And yeah, I think it's all about just naming what we're seeing and,
Hmm.
okay, so what does that feel like? What does that look like? What can we do differently, what has worked well,
Hmm.
and really just being a place. I think that's what coaching does for whether you're a new leader or any leader. I think it gives you a neutral place to come and
Yes.
bring your concerns and bring your wonderings and
Stuff.
your stuff, exactly, whatever your stuff is, and increase your self-awareness and your capacity in the process.
Yes, I love that. And so I imagine you're trying to help those folks get grounded. And as we talked about earlier, we have to be able to get grounded ourselves before we
Yes.
can help others get grounded. So, talk about daily meditation and gratitude and how that's central to your leadership and how those practices show up in the way that you work with leaders in schools.
Yeah, great question. And I would say those practices are central to me as a person, not even just me as a leader. But of course, who we are as we lead, so it's all the same. But yeah, so the meditation and the mindfulness practice. So in some ways, that goes back to also being ahead. So more than 10 years ago at the school that I led, we brought mindfulness practice into our school. And I
Nice.
like to say it was before it was trendy to do that. That was like 2014-ish time
I love
period.
it.
And yeah, and the way we talked about it, and it's how I still think of it, is in the way we tried to explain it to the children and the parents was this is the idea of the space between a reaction and a response. And we want to be, if we can respond, we're going to come from a stronger place than if we're going to react, right? So I still think about that. That's still kind of how I think about it in meditation. And on a fun note, anytime I do a workshop with groups of people, we will start with a pause plus 5, which
Mm,
is it's something we used to do at school. We used to sit in your mindful body, or stand in your mindful body. So sit up straight, put your feet on the ground, and breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and you trace your hand to help you do your breaths in and out. And
mm,
so I usually will start every session I do that way when it's a group session. In terms of actual, coaching, one-to-one coaching, I mean, I think it comes up a fair amount, this idea that, kind of taking mindfulness to another place with, kind of thinking about the Dare to Lead curriculum and how we define mindfulness there. And that kind of comes from Kristen Neff's work, which is that
mm,
mindfulness is naming our feelings and feeling our feelings without over identifying with our
mm.
feelings and without getting wrapped up in that negative or just charged reactivity that sometimes comes with our feelings. So I think in coaching that does come up a lot. It's okay to feel whatever, however you
Yeah.
feel. That's the right. And you still have to do what you need to do, and you can't always pause to and then again, that is it's the paradox, and it's that idea of multiple truths at once, right?
Yes.
So I think that's a big part there. And then in terms of my gratitude practice, it's interesting. I don't know how much. I'm sure my gratitude practice does really influence my coaching, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
in ways that I'm not totally conscious of. I will tell you that it has totally changed. Having a gratitude practice has totally changed my life. I mean, I
I
do
love it.
credit Oprah to where this came from. So this idea of keeping a daily gratitude journal, and I have
Uh-huh.
done it. I've done it for more than 20 years. And
I
I
love
think it
that.
has
That's great.
changed. Yeah, it has changed the way I perceive the world, because I started to notice maybe towards the end of my time as a head of school, when hard things would happen, and we had plenty of hard things that would happen. But I started to notice that I could get to something that I was grateful for quicker, even when something was really hard. And
Yeah.
that's still true. And I think that's because it kind of changes your brain chemistry. I mean, you almost go through the world looking for things to be grateful for. I think
Absolutely.
at the beginning, it starts because you have this accountability to yourself that you're going to write something down.
Right.
And later, and it's actually funny about that. So, I just over the summer, I kept all my gratitude journals, and over the summer I got rid of them because I've never looked at them again. And the truth is, it's not really about looking back, it's about being in the present moment. So after I got rid of them, I also decided not to care so much about what my handwriting looked like in them.
Oh, I am not there yet.
It's been really freeing, because I usually do it, I do it at night when I'm
Uh-huh.
getting into bed. And so it's not like I'm sitting at a desk, like ready to,
Right. Yeah.
penmanship class. And yeah, it's been really freeing to know that I'm writing this down because it's important for me to process it and I want to note it. And I'm probably never going to look at it again. And this journal is going to get thrown away when it's done. And that's okay. And that's like a huge thing for me to I'm a keeper of stuff. So
Yeah, and so I need to just pause and talk about that for a second because I've not been journaling nearly as long as you, but consistently probably for the past 5 years.
okay.
And I was like, do I just throw those away? Like in the trash? Like trash?
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
there
hard.
yet.
It's hard. Yeah, well, I had journals from 10, 20
Well, that's
years.
why I'm like, I know you've done more journals than I do, but I'm looking at a pile of them over here. They're right there.
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I, yeah,
And do you look at them? Do you ever look back at them?
I occasionally I'll go back, but very rarely.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I think what I would say, I mean, now we're going to turn this into a coaching session, but,
I know.
I think the question is, what is it serving to keep them?
I
Right.
know.
And I would say, maybe if it is really important for you to keep them, is there a new practice that you could create that you could benefit from keeping them?
Good
I don't know what that
question.
could be.
Now I have to think about that, and so I'll circle back around to you after this
Please
podcast,
do.
and we'll talk.
Please do. Yeah.
So looking ahead, what's next for you or for the leaders you're walking alongside in this next season of leadership development?
Yeah, good question. Well, I mean, I think for all of us, we talked about it earlier. I mean, this is a hard moment in time. And so
Yes.
I think that the opportunities to show up as a courageous leader, as a daring leader, are there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of opportunity. And so I think part of it is kind of pacing ourselves to take care of ourselves while also showing up with courage.
Hmm.
And like we talked about earlier too, I think those of us who can help people who need our help right now, that's
Right.
really important. And yeah, and I think schools, going back to schools specifically, I mean, there is no shortage of moments where courage is needed in a school, and it's on a one-to-one in a classroom, and it's in a board meeting, and it's in a presentation with families. It's everywhere. So I think that really what's next for all of us is hopefully continuing to choose courage and continuing to show up as our whole selves to the extent that we can, where it's safe to do that, and really do the hard work, be present, be vulnerable.
I love that. And so, Nicole, I know I talked about kind of what you do and your business quality matters in the introduction, but tell us where we can find you and what services you provide so that people know.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So you can find me at NicoleMcDermott.net. and also on the Educational Directions website too. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. And I would say, the services I offer, obviously executive leadership coaching, one-to-one or group team. I do Dare to Lead facilitation. There's a full curriculum with Dare to Lead, and sometimes I will do the whole curriculum with a group or a person, and sometimes we just do pieces of it. And then I think I said I also do Clifton Strengths. I'm a Gallup trained coach in that framework of the strengths, and EQI certified and certified grief educator. And what's next? I'm actually going to be taking a class this fall with Charles Feltman about trust at work. So I'm excited about that.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, really applicable to what I do.
Very cool. So are you up for some lightning round questions now that we've kind of gotten through the heavier stuff?
Yeah.
All right,
absolutely.
I got a couple of questions for you. I will start. Coffee or tea?
Oh, tea, and no caffeine. Herbal tea.
Same. Caffeine makes me jittery, and I don't digest it well for some reason. I don't know why.
I can't sleep at night. Even the caffeine that's in chocolate, I've had to eliminate chocolate because I'm so sensitive to it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Morning meditation or even reflection, which grounds you more?
Well, usually I meditate every morning, and sometimes I will fall asleep to a meditation too. So I would say probably the morning grounds me more, because in the evening I might be falling asleep. So
got it. Fair enough. What's one book besides Dare to Lead you recommend to every leader?
Well, I would say, actually have it right here. I did not know you were going to ask me this, but I have it. It's this Thin Book of Trust by Charles Feltman. And this is the same person who's teaching the class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. It talks about trust in such a basic level and gives you some actionable steps for what trust building looks like and to build a team and a culture around trust.
Awesome. I love that. And lastly, if you weren't in education and leadership development, what field could you see yourself in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, when I was in college, my minor was English journalism, and I love to write. I worked at my college. I was in the public affairs office, so I wrote and edited for our publications. At the time, they were paper. By the end of my senior year, it was electronic. But so I would say some sort of writing or editing type job would be, and then probably something in the nonprofit space also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a blast. I am so glad we had the opportunity to get together and do this. So you're always welcome at the table. So please come back.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And I think we want to acknowledge too lead team partners that brought us together. And I'm so grateful to have met you this year.
Absolutely. So thanks to Chris Pryor for lead team partners and facilitating us meeting. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, thanks for pulling up a chair at the table today. I hope this conversation gave you something to think about, or maybe even something to try out in your own community. One reminder I'm taking from this is that vulnerability, when practiced with intention, isn't weakness. It's the foundation for trust, growth, and resilience in leadership. If you're enjoying the table, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave us a review or comment. It really helps more people find us. And as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time at the table. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Table Podcast Series. Is your student life program delivering on your mission? Our new K-12 student life assessment moves you beyond anecdotes to evidence-based decisions. Through comprehensive stakeholder surveys and expert analysis, you'll get concrete insights across 8 essential dimensions of student life, from culture and wellness to staff effectiveness and resource allocation. We're seeking founding partner schools to be the first to experience this transformative assessment process and help shape the future of student life evaluation. Today's episode was hosted by Bridget Johnson in conversation with Nicole McDermott, produced and edited by Andrick Sigmund, and music by PremiumBeat.com. For any questions, contact information can be found in the episode description. And, as always, thanks again for listening.